Thank you, Joe, for that wonderful introduction. Yes, I've been doing this for 30 years. That's why it was fun listening to the group discussion at the first breakout there. So today what I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce the idea that circular economy on its own is not going to work. Sustainable materials management on its own is not going to work. And EPR as a methodology by which companies have to pay for the recycling on its own is not going to work. And I'll explain why. So when you look at the typical product that you have out in the marketplace, product X, I'm not going to point any fingers at any products today. I would love to. There's lots of great examples out there, but I'm not going to. When you look at it, you've got three primary areas. You've got manufacturing, you've got marketability, and packaging. Nobody's going to put a product in the marketplace that can't sell. So, period. You heard that this morning, from Steve with the idea that Procter & Gamble has brand equity colors. You know if you see orange, it's Tide. You know you see blue, it's Downy, et cetera, et cetera. So they have to put stuff in the marketplace that sells. If it doesn't sell, regardless of what the package is, then the company goes out of business. Companies are not in the business of going out of business. They're in the business of selling product. So that's all part of it, right? So it all comes into play. So there's a number of factors there. I'll take a look at it. You can see marketability, we've got safety. I'm not going to go through it all. There's too many to go through. But if you take a look at that, what I'm going to use this as my template to talk about how each of circular economy, sustainable materials management, and EPR fit within all the elements that really go into packaging or putting a product in the marketplace. So the circular economy. Ellen MacArthur Foundation has come out and said, everybody's got to move to the circular economy. So what is the circular economy? A restorative and regenerative, by design, aims to keep products, components, and materials at their highest value and utility all through it. In other words, it's got to go around and around and around and around. Nothing is supposed to leave the circle, right? Everybody loves to talk about paper. I've done a lot of work over the years for the paper industry, but paper is not a circular product. Everybody would love to say, yes, it is. Tetra Pak into tissue, use it once, it's gone. So it's not circular. So the model seeks to ultimately decouple global economic development from the finite resources of consumption. Okay? Keep everything in the circle as long as you possibly can. So you look at your product, you get all these great things, and it hits some of them. But it's missing a few things. There's no discussion of cost. So in other words, everything goes around and around and around in a circle, but nobody talks about cost of manufacturing. Right? Ultimately, if you wanted to put everything in circular economy, shouldn't we just go back to glass and steel? It goes around and around and around. Forget everything else, right? It doesn't take into account packaging regulation. And I'm just going to use, the pill bottle, Tylenol. And I'm not pointing at Tylenol. They're not doing anything wrong. Don't get me wrong here. But, you buy that package of Tylenol, and you take the cap, or first of all, you take off the top of the package, right? So you open up the box, and inside, there's the sleeve that tells you how to use it. Then you take the bottle, you open up that, and there's a cap inside, and there's a little piece of cotton. Right? Oh, and by the way, on top of the cap, there's usually now a plastic wrapper around it. Health and safety regulations. You have to do those things in order to put the product in the marketplace to keep people from doing things they're not supposed to. So, that from a packaging perspective, it's a disaster. But it has to be done. So circular economy doesn't account for things like that. And like I said, it doesn't account for cost. There's no look at value. There's no looking at transportation impacts. If we move to glass and steel, what are we going to have? So there's a number of factors in here that are not accounted for by looking at circular economy by its own. So circular economy, great concept. And by the way, I'm not against any of these things. I'm for all of them. But by themselves, you can't just jump on the circular economy bandwagon and go, we got the solution. No, we don't. Sustainable materials management. I'm going to give you a little heads up to where I'm going to finish. I hate the word sustainable. An approach to promote sustainable materials use, integrated actions targeting the reduced negative environmental impacts, preserving natural capital. In other words, don't use it to begin with. Right? Use life cycle to account for everything you're doing, regardless of what you've got. So if the life cycle is the best, that's the best product we should put in the marketplace. Well, okay, yeah, from a straight consumption perspective, that is a good idea, right? So you look at your product, and we look at what we've got now. So what did it do? It added a couple things. It adds in regulation and safety and security, right? Because now they're going to look at it to make sure the product goes to the marketplace, but does so in a safe and secure manner, gets it to the consumer consumes it in a more reasonable fashion, the pouch, and having things last a lot longer than they used to. by using pouches as opposed to using a PET container, HDP, or whatever. So there's reasons to go and do sustainable materials management. But again, it doesn't cover off all of it. If you go to sustainable materials management, if I'm Jay Stanford or Norm Lee, who are in the room today, and I say, okay, guess what, guys? Everything is going to move to pouches. They would shoot me. And I used to work with Jay, and we were knee-deep in stuff, and we did all those sorts back in the late 80s and early 90s, right? Because the idea of everything going to a pouch, you're going, oh, great, now what am I going to do with it? I can't do anything with it. So you can't just look at sustainable materials management because you still have a problem. So then we get to EPR. I'm going to throw this out. People can yell at me. I've done it in front of regulators. I've done it in front of everybody. Extended producer responsibility is a tax. All they've done, when you think about it, the householder used to pay it on their municipal tax bill. I love that I'm seeing heads nodding up and down. It's great. I'm not the only one that's going to get killed. All right? It used to be on your municipal tax bill. They took it off the tax bill, and they threw it onto the producers. Right? And they said, producers, you created the problem. You pay for it. Okay. Yep. And then we've got a bunch of different EPR programs in Canada, none in the States when it comes to printed paper and packaging. I was blessed with working with Green by Nature. I was the COO of Green by Nature when we put that program in place. It is a very good program. I'm going to pat myself on the back and pat Green by Nature on the back. But it's not the only thing, and there's more that has to be done. But it's getting there, to Craig's point. It's a good place, so don't undermine what's being done. So there's a shifting responsibility, physically and financially, to the producer. Okay, away from municipalities, away from the consumer. The idea is that it's supposed to provide an incentive to the producer to create better packaging. Now, you go and talk to the producers out there. Procter & Gamble's one of them, and I have an example of a package where they said, I don't care what the stewardship fees are. No, that's not the important question. So you look at, my nice little bubble diagram again, and so what does EPR really hit? Everybody's going, oh, it's the answer. No, it's great. Finally get everybody to pay for it. Let's put it in EPR. It'll solve all our problems, right? Because at least the cost will be covered. But it doesn't, though. It only looks at value, end of life in the different parts of it. The package, the product, if we're talking about for example, and it talks about the cost. So now the cost is covered. But look at all the bubbles that are not covered. It doesn't cover hardly anything. But I think you know where I'm going with all of this. Packaging is important. It's really important. In fact, in some cultures, and in fact with some people, why they choose a product on the shelf is because of the package. It's like, oh, that's a nice package. I like that. When all else is equal, the package will determine which product they purchase. When they go back to purchase it again, if the package was really good for them, or just as importantly, if it was really bad for them, 36% of the population will shift if the package is bad. So packaging is really important. We understand that from a marketability standpoint. Right? I worked in retail for 8 years. I know. The package is very important. It attracts the consumer's eye. And like I said, if they don't put the good stuff on the marketplace, nobody's going to buy it. The company goes out of business. So packaging is important in the grand scheme of things. Now, more importantly, from the whole idea of having to manage all of these things is packaging is evolving. You look at what we've got now. Newspapers have all but disappeared. Right? How many closed up in the last 6 months in Ontario alone? 24, I think it was, newspapers shuttered when the National Post and the Torstar flipped newspapers, so they shuttered so many of them. So newspapers are all but gone. So we don't have newspapers to draw out of the system anymore. Glass bottles are 40% lighter. PET bottles are 50% lighter. When you got a 9-gram bottle and a 3-gram cap, right? How much effort it takes to process those. I ran recycling facilities for 6 years. The amount of effort that goes into capturing those things nowadays is ridiculous. Now, we have optical sorters. They're wonderful machines. People confound the machines by putting full sleeve bottles on. Let's not go there because I could talk for another hour and a half on that and all the fun that we have in recycling facilities. But it's all part of the equation. There's more OCC for now. How many people love to shop on Amazon? It's so convenient, isn't it? You just there the next day. Great. Then the box shows up. And then you open it up and you take out the bubble wrap, or the bubble packs now, right? And you take out the the craft paper, and then there's that nice little thing in the bottom. Isn't that great? Well, a year ago, when everybody loved OCC because it was worth $170 a ton, yay, more OCC. Now it's like, oh, God, what am I going to do now? I got to pay to get rid of it, or I'm making a couple of bucks a ton, and it's so much volume. You know, more collection trucks are needed. OCC, it's a mixed blessing. So what we're seeing, and Amazon's talking about it, we're seeing with others, especially in the textile industry, why put it in a box at all? Why not just put it in a plastic pouch? Oh, great, more plastic pouches. Yay. Where's that EPR program? Who's going to pay for those plastic pouches that I can't recycle? At least in the box, I could recycle it and get paid for it and get some revenue. Well, except for National Sort. Right? Let's take out the last year in 1995, and no, let's not go there. Right? So, anyhow. So, why is there a fight? Why is it, I go to conferences, I talk to people and go, has to be circular economy. It's the only thing, and that's what we're hearing now from our government. The Ontario government, sorry, I shouldn't say the government. The Ontario government said, we have to have circular economy. It's the future. And we're hearing it everywhere. It's the future. Hold on, take a step back. You don't have all the information. You're making policy on the backs of half of the information that's out there, half of the truths. When I came back from BC and I sat down with a bunch of people, I was there 3.5 years of running the BC program for the whole province. And I would talk to people and go, oh, and this is what's happening in BC. No, it's not. Well, this is what's going on in BC. No, it's not. There's so much misinformation out there that we've got people in power, in government, municipalities, and I'm not pointing fingers at anybody. It's just that they don't have the information. You heard Craig this morning talk about he and Joe going to talk to the city of Vancouver, and they're going, really? That's what's going on here? That's scary. And yet they build policy on the basis of that much information. So everybody goes, oh, CE, great, let's do it. We're not asking the right question. Everybody's still focused on, oh, we got to get our diversion up, we got to get our tons down to go into disposal because, tons is a bad thing. Recycling diversion rates don't work, will not work. I will bet on it. I have a new granddaughter. I do not want to be standing here 22 years, well, I better not be standing here 22 years from now. I'd be, But anyhow, 22 years from now, my granddaughter's the age of my daughter, sitting here going, huh? Tons? What's a ton? Who cares? Tons are not the answer. We're not going to get there. We're not going to hit 100%. We're not going to get zero waste. We're not going to hit 65%. Europe's been doing this for a long time with the EU regs, right? They're stuck just the same way we're stuck in North America. They're stuck at a little higher level. Let's not get into statistics. We'll be here all year, right, about who's doing what. But I mean, the whole idea is they're still stuck. So no matter what we do, we're not going to really move from here to get rid of all the waste. We need to consider carbon. We're never going to run out of packaging, but we are going to run out of carbon. Don't get me into biogenic sources and all that stuff. I don't want to start growing corn in order to have my corrugated box that goes around my Amazon package that comes in that has the thing inside this big. Let's not go there, because otherwise we'll get into a large discussion about food waste. And there's another multi-hour discussion. Right? The system does not look at the entire possibility that's out there. To be honest, most people don't even understand what the system is capable of doing today. Look at BC. The only thing that's not in the BC program is multi-laminated plastic pouches. How many municipalities in Ontario are taking everything except for multi-laminated plastic pouches? You read the CBC. Oh, I can't do coffee cups. Oh, I can't do coffee capsules. Horse hockey. We did it starting the first day on May 19th, 2014. There's no reason why the system can't do more. It's just that people don't want to understand what the system is capable of doing. So you need to put it all together. So, circular economy respects that nothing should be wasted. Right? Reduction in overall toxicity, that's always a good thing. You don't want bad stuff out there. You have to consider the full potential value of what's out there. So once it gets in the marketplace, having it in a linear progression, with all due respect, I'm not against energy from waste, I'm not against gasification, etc. But should that be the final solution, or should that be the solution for today? Okay, it's better than going in a hole in the ground, because that is an absolute waste. If we can at least capture the inherent energy within the package, let's get that. But do we do that forever? It's awfully linear. And circular economy does not lead to the overall lowest footprint. Think about it. You take all those pouches off the market. Let's go to something that's really recyclable. So take all that, and we're going to put it all back in tins. Let's go back to the 1940s before the Second World War. Think about the transportation impacts of shipping that stuff all over North America if we went from pouches back to tin. Tins are really recyclable, highly recyclable. That's what the circular economy is telling you to do. Sustainable materials management reduces the overall carbon footprint. Great. Reduces transportation. Great. We're getting there. Delivers product extending shelf life. That statistic came from a presentation that was done, well, actually almost a year ago now, by PacNext by a professor looking at food waste. I could take that steak that I go to the shopping mall or the grocery store, or my meat market, whatever, put it on a polystyrene meat tray, wrap it in plastic, take it home, it lasts 3 days, and you go, oh crap, I forgot it was in the back of the fridge, and then you go to throw it out. How many people in this room have had that happen to them? And if anybody doesn't put up their hand, you're liars. So you look at it and you're going, oh my God, I just wasted, who cares about the cost of the steak? I just wasted the steak. Let's look at it from an environmental perspective. That's 370 times the carbon footprint of the package it was in. Okay, so BC, we take the XPS, the meat tray. I can recycle it all day, every day. No problem whatsoever. So, circular economy says, stick it on a meat tray, because I can recycle that. Sustainable materials management says, stick it in a cryovac pack, make it last 2 weeks instead of 3 days. Stop wasting the food to begin with. If I hear one more person say we need to create more and more and more and more and more food, I'm going to cry. Stop wasting the food we got now. Sustainable materials management, proper packaging design can help get us there. We don't need more acres of open land. We don't need to continue to destroy rainforest at the rate of 1 acre a minute so we can grow more grains and more cows. We've got to stop wasting the grain and the cows we got now. Sustainable materials management gets us there. But it's not circular. Oh, God, I can't have that then. Extended producer responsibility gives industry an opportunity to take control, right? They don't like paying for the system. The half pay in Ontario, the 3/4 pay in Saskatchewan, the 100% pay in Quebec, where there's no control. Do you think whoever wants to sit there, it would be like going out and buying a new car. Oh, but by the way, I'm not going to tell you what the car looks like. I'm not going to tell you how much it is today, right? You drive it for a year. I'll go collect the data, and then I'll give you the bill for it next year. Well, how do you know whether or not you just stepped yourself into a, I don't know, choose a small car. What are they on your left? The Mazda 3 versus, driving around a Chevy Suburban or a brand new Maserati. Which one you got? I don't know, right? Is that a way to do business? If I'm a businessman, I am, by the way, but anyhow, business, that's horrid. So extended producer responsibility doesn't work. The fees are not high enough. If they were 10 times what they were today, we might start seeing packaging change in earnest. With all due respect, all the companies are doing it. They're doing it at this scale, not at this scale. We need this scale. So you look at all of this, you put them all together, all three of them. Whoa, look at that. Every bubble's filled in. Right? You got to have them all together. But I'm going to leave you with something. Remember I said at the beginning of my presentation, I hate the word sustainable. We just changed our logo for my company. Our tagline. We used to say seeing beyond sustainability. No. We have to go past that now. We have to see beyond it, not seeing. We don't see beyond it. You have to see beyond sustainability. What's sustainable? What's sustainable for you, sir? What's sustainable for you, sir? What's sustainable for you, ma'am? What's sustainable for one person, for one country, is not necessarily sustainable for another country or another person. I might be able to live on this much, but the person beside me couldn't, for whatever reason. So the idea of what are we measuring sustainability against what? What's sustainable? With all due respect to the gentleman who spoke this morning about 35% landfill, great, love it, it's nice to hear. From the UK, right? 35% of the 1995? Okay, so that means, though, think about this. That sounded great, didn't it? Oh, only 35%? Fantastic. You know what that means? Think about it. We could generate 3 times as much stuff as long as we diverted it all back down to get to the 35%, to hit the target. Can we afford, as a society, to consume 3 times more for a target of tonnage to disposal? No. If we had a target that said, you can only consume X number of tons of carbon in everything you do, people would have to stand up and watch. Companies are starting to do that now, by the way. So that's the good news. So I'm leaving it to you. You know, all those students that are here, we got 75 of them. Would you kick us old guys to the curb, please? You know, I've been doing this for 30 years. Craig, 30, Joe, 30. We've all been doing it. We've got hundreds and hundreds of years of experience in this room, and we've managed to muck it up pretty good. We got to start, but we're so far from a solution, we need some fresh minds in the room. So kick us to the curb. You guys come up here. You should be telling us, okay, you screwed it up. Now we have to fix your mess. Doesn't it sound like a parent talking to their kids? Man, it's amazing how it all comes back around. Thanks very much.